The quiet house on the hill. The rain had just begun falling over the small, quiet town when a lonely white and ginger kitten pressed its tiny paws against a dusty window inside an abandoned house. The house sat on a small hill, forgotten by time, its wooden boards swollen from old storms, its roof covered in moss, its door half broken, but still clinging to its hinges. No one had lived there for years. But for the little kitten named Lumi, it had become the only place left to survive. Lumi was barely 4 months old, still with the round face and soft features of a baby cat. Her fur should have been bright and fluffy, but instead, it was dirty from days of wandering and searching for food. Her once clear eyes now carried a sadness too heavy for such a small creature. Every day, Lumi would climb to the same window and stare outside. She didn't understand what she was searching for. A shadow? A miracle? A person who might see her? Perhaps she didn't know the word hope, but she felt it. Deeply down outside, the world passed without noticing her pain. Cars drove by. People walked quickly, umbrellas up, coats tight, rushing home to warmth. Birds flew over the house, sheltering under roofs and trees as the rain grew heavier. But Lumi stayed there, pressed against the cold window glass, watching droplets race down its cracked surface. Her stomach growled from hunger, but she didn't move. Her tiny body trembled, not only from the cold, but also from the deep loneliness that had wrapped around her ever since she had been abandoned. She didn't remember the moment clearly, just the sound of a car door, the confusion of being lifted, the feeling of being placed down on the sidewalk. And then, the car leaving. She had run behind it, crying for her family. But nobody came back, and so Lumi ended up in the old house on the hill, surviving on raindrops and whatever scraps she could find. Today, however, something felt different. A strange warmth stirred in her chest. She didn't know why, but hope, silent, fragile, trembling, had arrived. As the rain grew stronger, Lumi heard a sound she wasn't used to, a slow, steady set of footsteps climbing the hill. She pressed her ear to the window, her little heart beating faster. Could it be danger? Another storm gust? Or perhaps a person? A figure appeared through the fog, tall, carrying an umbrella, walking carefully through the puddles. Lumi's eyes widened. She had seen people before, many times, but none had ever come up the hill. Nobody visited this abandoned home. The stranger stopped near the broken gate and looked up at the house. Lumi felt fear rise inside her. She backed away from the window. The figure slowly approached, their steps gentle, not threatening. When they reached the porch, they crouched down and noticed small paw prints in the mud. Lumi's prints, faint but visible. The stranger whispered softly, "Hello, is someone in there?" Lumi froze. The voice wasn't loud or harsh. It was warm, like sunlight breaking through clouds. Something inside her stirred again, the same feeling from earlier, that warmth in her chest. The stranger stood, walked to the window, and slowly wiped a small circle of glass clear with their hand. Lumi, trembling, peeked from behind a broken chair. Their eyes met. For the first time in weeks, Lumi saw kindness. The stranger gasped softly, "Oh, little one." Tears formed in their eyes as they realized the truth. A tiny, starving kitten had been living alone in this forgotten house. The stranger placed a hand on the window. Lumi hesitated, then took one shaky step forward, then another. She approached the glass until her nose almost touched it. The stranger smiled gently through the rain. "It's okay. I see you." And for Lumi, those words, though she didn't understand them, felt like the world shifting beneath her paws. The stranger gently placed something on the floor, a small open can of wet cat food. The scent reached Lumi instantly. Her stomach cramped with hunger, and her instincts battled with her fear. She crouched low, unsure, trembling. "It's for you," the stranger said softly. Minutes passed. The rain continued its rhythm outside, tapping the roof like a heartbeat. Lumi finally stepped forward. One tiny paw, then another. Her nose touched the food. The moment she tasted it, she couldn't stop. She devoured it desperately, tears forming in her eyes. Not tears of sadness this time, but of relief. The stranger watched with emotion, their own eyes shining. "It's okay," they whispered again. "You're safe now." When Lumi finished, she looked at the stranger uncertainly. Slowly, cautiously, she pressed her tiny head against their hand. The stranger's heart broke and healed at the same time. This was the first touch of kindness Lumi had felt since the day she lost her family. And it changed everything. The stranger gently picked up Lumi, wrapping her in a warm towel they had brought in their backpack. Lumi at first stiffened, afraid, but then melted into the warmth, exhausted from days of cold nights and empty stomachs. "She's so light," the stranger murmured sadly. "You must have been alone for a long time." Lumi tucked her face into the towel and let out a tiny, fragile purr, weak, but full of trust. The stranger held her close as they left the abandoned house. The rain had softened to a drizzle, the clouds parting slightly as if watching this small miracle unfold. The hill, once so lonely, now felt peaceful. As the stranger descended with Lumi in their arms, the world seemed new, different, kinder. Lumi didn't know where they were going. She didn't know what home meant anymore, but she felt it. For the first time, she wasn't alone. And somewhere deep inside her, hope bloomed fully at last. The path down the hill was muddy, but the stranger walked carefully, one arm holding Lumi securely against their chest, the other steadying the umbrella above them both. The storm that had once roared with fury was now nothing more than a soft whisper, a distant memory that slowly melted into the night. Lumi's tiny nose peeked out of the towel, feeling the cool air touch her damp whiskers. Every sound seemed new. The gentle drip of water from the umbrella, the sighing of the wind calming at last, the distant hum of the quiet town awakening after the storm. For the first time, each sound felt safe. No cracking thunder, no shaking walls, only softness. The stranger held her closer, sensing her trembling slowly fading. "You're okay now," they whispered, brushing a thumb over the towel where Lumi's head rested. "I've got you." Lumi didn't understand the words, but she felt the warmth in them. She let out a tiny purr, just a fluttering vibration, but enough to make the stranger smile gently. The walk through town, they reached the narrow streets of the sleeping town, where puddles reflected the dim lights of old street lamps. Wooden porches dripped rainwater, and cats fed, and loved slept inside warm homes with families who cherished them. Lumi watched everything with wide, curious eyes. She had never seen this side of the world before, never been this close to where warmth lived. People's houses glowed softly from inside yellow windows, filled with shadows of families, moving, laughing, living. Lumi pressed her face deeper into the towel. She didn't know what any of that meant, but it felt like something she had always longed for without knowing why. The stranger noticed Lumi's small head shifting to peek around. "You'll have a place like that too," they murmured. "A warm place. Food, love. You deserve all of it?" Lumi blinked slowly. The purr returned, steadier this time. The stranger's home at last. They stopped in front of a small house with a porch light still on despite the hour. The garden was tiny, full of wet flowers that hung low under droplets from the recent storm. The stranger opened the door quietly, as though not wanting to scare the kitten or wake the house itself. Soft light spilled out, warm, gentle, golden, nothing like the cold darkness of the abandoned house on the hill. Lumi blinked at the brightness, her pupils narrowing. She tucked herself tighter into the towel as she was brought inside. The air smelled like cinnamon and warm blankets. The stranger closed the door behind them, shutting out the last trace of the storm. "You're safe now," they whispered again, more to themselves than to Lumi. First moments indoors, they set Lumi down on a soft wool blanket placed carefully on the living room floor. Lumi wobbled slightly, still exhausted, but the softness beneath her paws was unlike anything she had felt before. No dust, no cold, no broken wood, no fear, just warmth. The stranger crouched beside her with a gentle smile. "Let me bring you something warm, little one." They disappeared for a moment into the kitchen. Lumi's ears twitched, her instincts telling her to hide, but her tiny legs refused to move. The warmth was too comforting, too healing. When the stranger returned, they carried a small, shallow dish filled with milk warmed just enough to steam softly in the air. Lumi sniffed the dish, hesitating only a moment before beginning to drink. Her tongue lapped desperately at first, then slower, calmer, grateful. The stranger watched with tears glistening in their eyes. "You're going to be okay," they whispered. "I promise." The first night of safety, Lumi finished drinking and lifted her head, milk droplets clinging adorably to her chin. She took a few steps back, circled once instinctively, and curled up right on the blanket. The stranger gently draped the towel over her like a tiny tent. Outside, the sky finally cleared completely. Moonlight peeked through the window, calm and bright, as if watching over the tiny survivor. Lumi's eyes fluttered open and closed. Her last memory before falling asleep was a soft hand resting beside her, not touching, not forcing comfort, just offering presence. A promise. A gentle world, the home she never knew she needed. And this time, sleep came peacefully. No thunder, no trembling, no hunger, just warmth, just safety, just the slow, steady heartbeat of a new beginning. A new morning when Lumi woke, sunlight filled the room soft, golden, and warm. The wool blanket felt even softer now that she wasn't shaking with cold. She stretched her tiny body, paws reaching forward as she let out a small, squeaky yawn. Her stomach didn't ache. Her fur didn't sting from rain. Her bones didn't hurt from the cold. Everything was different. The stranger appeared in the doorway, smiling with relief when they saw she was awake. "There you are." "Good morning, sweetheart." Lumi blinked, tilting her head. Her tail curled around her body as she watched them approach slowly, respectfully. They set down a small bowl of soft kitten food, fresh and warm. Lumi sniffed it, and the memory of the abandoned house, the storm, the hunger felt far away. She began to eat, slowly, steadily, safely. The stranger stroked the floor beside her and said softly, "Welcome home." "Lumi." Lumi paused, looked up at them, and for the first time in her life, she understood something deeper than words. This was home. This person was her safety, her warmth, her miracle. She took another bite, then leaned her tiny head against the stranger's hand. And in that moment, the last piece of the storm inside her finally disappeared. The walk down the hill felt longer than the climb up, but Lumi no longer trembled. She lay curled in the stranger's arms, feeling each careful step as they shielded her from the drizzle with their jacket. The scent of the towel, clean, warm, faintly floral, was the first comforting smell she had known in what felt like forever. Her little body, drained from fear and hunger, slowly grew heavier in their arms. Not asleep, just finally allowing herself to rest. "Easy, little one," the stranger whispered, keeping their voice soft. "You're safe now." That word, safe. Lumi didn't understand the sound, but she understood the warmth behind it. She pressed her face deeper into the towel, her whiskers twitching as a weak but peaceful purr vibrated in her chest. The town below was beginning to glow. Windows lit up one by one, casting golden squares onto the wet pavement. Shops were closing. Cars splashed through puddles. Life moved on as it always did. But for Lumi, everything had changed. The stranger walked steadily through the quiet evening streets, holding her close careful not to jostle her thin, fragile body. Whenever thunder rumbled far away, Lumi gave a tiny flinch, but the stranger's hand gently cupped her head, and she relaxed again. They crossed into a quieter neighborhood with small houses, trimmed gardens, and flickering porch lights. The stranger lived at the end of the street, a cozy little home with ivy climbing one side of the wall and a soft yellow light glowing through the curtains. "Here we are," they murmured. The front door opened with a soft creak. Warm air drifted out, carrying the scent of chamomile and fresh laundry. Lumi blinked slowly. Warm, dry, safe. 3 things she had forgotten could exist. The stranger set their backpack down and carried Lumi straight to the living room. A fireplace flickered in the corner, its gentle crackles filling the room with a quiet rhythm. Lumi's tired eyes followed the tiny sparks rising and fading, like little stars being born and dying within seconds. "You must be freezing," the stranger said softly. They placed her on a thick, plush blanket soft enough that it felt like clouds beneath her small paws. The towel was gently unfolded, leaving Lumi exposed to the warmth of the house. She blinked in confusion. Everything felt soft. Too unreal. The stranger knelt beside her. "You poor thing." Their hand hovered above her for a moment, not wanting to frighten her, then slowly lowered to stroke the top of her head. Lumi closed her eyes and leaned into the touch. No claws, no flinching, just trust. Fragile, new, but real. Her fur was still damp in places, but the heat from the fireplace wrapped around her like an invisible blanket. The stiffness in her tiny limbs began to fade. The stranger examined her gently, her ribs visible beneath her fur. Her paws scraped, her tail trembling from stress. "We'll get you to a vet first thing in the morning," they promised softly. "For now, let's just make you comfortable." They disappeared into another room for a moment. Lumi listened, ears twitching as cupboards opened, boxes rattled, water ran. When the stranger returned, they carried a small dish of warm milk, a plate with shredded chicken, and a heating pad wrapped in another soft towel. Lumi's nose twitched. Food, real food. The stranger placed everything carefully beside her and whispered, "Try, little one." Lumi took a tentative lick of the chicken, then another, and suddenly starvation took over. She began eating desperately, almost shaking, until the stranger gently placed a hand near her bowl to slow her down. "It's okay. You don't have to rush. There's more. There will always be more." Lumi stopped. Always more. What a strange, impossible idea. After eating, she walked weak, wobbly to the heating pad. The warmth soaked into her bones, melting away the cold that had lived inside her for days. Her eyelids drooped. Her breathing slowed. But before sleep could fully claim her, she lifted her head slightly and looked at the stranger sitting nearby. For the first time since she was born, for the first time through rain, fear, hunger, and loneliness, Lumi felt something deeper than relief. She felt safe, protected, seen. She let out one soft, tiny mew, a sound so quiet it barely existed. The stranger smiled. "Good night, Lumi." That name again, that gentle voice. Her small body curled into the warmth. Her tail settled around her paws. And with a final content breath, Lumi fell asleep, knowing she finally belonged somewhere. And that somewhere was here. Lumi slept for hours so deeply that even the churning of the fireplace logs or the soft hum of the heater didn't wake her. Her tiny breaths rose and fell in slow, fragile waves, as if her body was relaying the rhythm of safety. The stranger stayed close the whole time, checking on her every few minutes, adjusting the blanket so it wouldn't slip, making sure the heating pad wasn't too warm. There was tenderness in every movement, an invisible promise that Lumi wasn't alone anymore. Outside, the night grew quiet. The rain stopped. The clouds drifted, revealing a handful of stars that shimmered faintly through the living room window. Hours later, Lumi stirred. Her ears flicked at the crackling of the fire. Her whiskers twitched. For a moment, she seemed confused, unsure of where she was. Then she stretched. A small, tiny stretch. The first she had allowed herself in days. The stranger smiled gently. "You're awake again, little one." Lumi lifted her head slowly. Her eyes, once cloudy with fear, looked brighter, though still tired. She blinked and let out a soft mew, almost like a question. "You're safe," the stranger reassured. Lumi looked around. Warm light, soft blankets, food, quiet, a home. Something inside her loosened, something tight and painful she had carried since the moment she was born. The stranger held out their hand. Lumi hesitated, then pressed her tiny face into their fingers, nuzzling with slow, cautious affection. A small miracle, happening quietly. Later that night, after Lumi had eaten a second small meal, the stranger carried her to a cozy little room prepared for the night. A basket filled with pillows, a soft nightlight shaped like a moon, a few small toys placed gently nearby, though Lumi was still too weak to play. "You'll sleep here, close to me," the stranger whispered, placing the basket beside the bed. Lumi curled up again, but this time her eyes remained half open. She watched the stranger move around the room, turning off lights, closing curtains, settling under the blankets. She watched and listened and breathed. Everything was calm. But then, a sudden, sharp sound cracked outside. A loud clang, followed by a faint rumble of thunder in the distance. Lumi froze. Her fur puffed slightly, her ears flattened. Her tiny heart raced like a trapped bird. Without thinking, without understanding, she bolted out of the basket, straight onto the bed, and pressed herself trembling against the stranger's side. "Oh, hey, hey. It's okay," the stranger murmured, instantly awake. Lumi shook uncontrollably. The world had been cruel for too long. Storms had meant danger, cold, loneliness. Her tiny body remembered even when her mind tried to forget. The stranger slowly wrapped their arms around her, lifting her with the utmost care. They held her against their chest, close enough for her to hear a steady heartbeat. Lumi's shaking eased bit by bit. "It's just noise," the stranger soothed. "You're not out there anymore. You're here, with me." Lumi buried her face into their shirt, breathing in warmth, safety, and a promise she desperately wanted to trust. Minutes passed, then more. Finally, the fear faded. The stranger stroked her head gently. "Maybe you should sleep with me tonight." They lifted the blanket slightly, creating a small, warm space near their shoulder. Lumi crawled in immediately, curling into a ball so tiny it almost disappeared. And for the first time in her life, Lumi slept beside someone. Not in the rain, not in the cold, not alone in fear, but wrapped in warmth and heartbeat and a softness she never knew existed. And the stranger, they smiled in the dark, feeling the lightest rumble of a purr against their chest. A fragile bond had begun, a bond strong enough to change both their lives. The sun rose slowly the next morning, filling the house with a gentle golden glow. Birds chirped outside, and the scent of warm air drifted through the open window. The stranger awoke to a surprising feeling, a tiny weight on their chest, soft fur brushing their chin. A warm little body curled into them. Lumi was still asleep, her paws tucked beneath her, her face peaceful. Her purr rumbled softly, the sound of trust, small but unmistakable. The stranger didn't dare move. They simply watched her. "Little one, you're a brave soul," they whispered. But just as they were beginning to rise, Lumi stirred. She blinked sleepily, looked up, and let out a small, soft mew. A greeting, a question, a thank you. Maybe all three. The stranger stroked her head lightly. "Good morning, Lumi." Lumi stepped onto their chest with her tiny paws, stretching luxuriously, her tail flicking gently. It was the first stretch of a cat who knew she would not have to run today. But the peace did not last long, because the stranger noticed something. A limp, subtle, but noticeable. When Lumi tried to climb down from the bed, her left hind leg shook. She stepped carefully, almost wincing. The stranger's heart tightened. "Oh, Lumi, you're hurt more than I thought." Lumi tried to walk normally, but her body betrayed her. She paused halfway across the room, looked back, and let out a tiny, uncertain mew. The stranger knelt beside her immediately. "It's okay. I've got you." They scooped her up gently, holding her close. "We're going to the vet right now." Lumi didn't understand the words. She only understood the tone. Protective, determined, kind. She nestled quietly into the stranger's arms as they grabbed their keys, phone, and a soft blanket. The door closed behind them. A new journey began. One that would reveal truths neither of them expected. One that would test Lumi's newfound hope, and possibly her life. The car hummed softly as the stranger drove through the early morning streets. Lumi was wrapped snugly in the blanket, resting on their lap. Each time the vehicle hit a small bump, she tensed, her instincts whispering danger, but the stranger's steady hand on her back kept her calm. "It's all right," they murmured. "You're safe. I promise." Lumi's eyes were half open, drifting between sleep and worry. The world outside the window passed in blurred colors, greens, grays, golden morning light, but she barely noticed. Her little body pulsed with exhaustion, and her injured leg throbbed with every heartbeat. The stranger glanced down at her, worry tightening their chest. "She's so weak. How did she survive out there?" But Lumi had survived, even if barely, because something inside her small, battered, stubborn refused to give up. The car slowed as they turned into the parking lot of a small veterinary clinic. The sign was simple, worn slightly by sun and rain. Maple Grove Animal Care. The lot was empty. The clinic had just opened. The stranger parked quickly, then scooped Lumi into their arms. She mewed softly, half pain, half confusion. "I know, little one. Just a little more." They rushed toward the entrance. And that was the moment the vet saw her. A shocked reception. The door chimed as the stranger entered, and two veterinary workers looked up. A nurse at the reception desk gasped softly. Oh my God." Another tech, carrying a clipboard, stopped mid-step. The stranger placed Lumi gently on a clean towel at the reception counter. "She's injured and starving, and she's been alone. Please help her." Lumi lifted her head weakly. Her mouth opened in a faint, breathy meow, almost silent, as if the sound itself hurt to make. The nurse's eyes softened. "She's so tiny, and she's freezing." A veterinarian, a calm woman with silver hair, pulled into a low bun, emerged from the hallway. "What's going on?" The nurse gestured toward Lumi. The vet's expression changed instantly. "Oh, sweetheart," she whispered, stepping closer. "Let me see you." She reached out her hands slowly, letting Lumi sniff the air first. Lumi, trembling, hesitated, but didn't shy away. She sensed something gentle in the woman's touch. "She trusts you already," the stranger murmured. The vet nodded. Animals know kindness. Lumi let the vet lift her carefully. Her injured leg twitched, and she whimpered softly, the first real cry since they had left the abandoned house. The sound pierced the stranger's heart. The vet cradled Lumi against her chest. "We'll run some tests. She's dehydrated, underweight, and that leg. We'll take x-rays, okay?" She looked at the stranger with calm determination. "She's in very bad condition, but you brought her in just in time." The stranger exhaled shakily. "Is she going to be okay?" "We'll do everything we can." Lumi looked up weakly at the stranger as the vet carried her away, her tiny eyes filled with confusion. "I'll be right here," the stranger promised, voice trembling. Lumi's ears twitched at the sound. Then she disappeared behind the clinic door. Chapter 7. Waiting, the stranger sat in the waiting room, elbows on their knees, hands clasped tightly. The minutes felt like hours. Each tick of the clock echoed through the empty room. They replayed everything in their mind. Lumi in the rain, Lumi trembling, Lumi pressed against their chest in fear, Lumi sleeping beside them, trusting them, Lumi's limp, her tiny cries, her coat caked with dirt and pain. "Please be okay," they whispered. On the other side of the wall, muffled voices sounded, vets speaking, machines humming, soft mews from Lumi. At one point, a sharp cry echoed faintly. The stranger stood up instantly, heart pounding, but the nurse at the counter raised her hand gently. "She's all right. They're helping her." The stranger nodded, though their heart remained heavy. More time passed. The door finally opened. The vet emerged holding Lumi, wrapped in a small heated blanket. Lumi was drowsy from sedation, but her breathing looked steadier. The stranger stood immediately. "Is she okay? What happened?" The vet took a deep breath. "All right. I'll explain everything." They both sat down. Lumi curled sleepily in the vet's arms, her tiny head resting against her chest. "She has a mild fracture in her hind leg," the vet said softly. "It's not old, maybe a few days. She must have fallen or been hurt while searching for shelter." The stranger felt their stomach drop. "She's malnourished, dehydrated, and very underweight. But," she smiled gently, "she's responding well. Her heart is strong. Her blood work is stable. She just needs time and someone willing to fight for her." The stranger exhaled in relief, tears burning behind their eyes. "I'll do anything for her. Anything." Lumi stirred at the sound, opening her eyes halfway. She recognized the voice. She let out the faintest purr. The vet placed Lumi in their arms. "She already knows you're her person," the vet murmured. The stranger held Lumi close. Her body, though fragile, radiated a soft warmth. Her tiny paws curled into the blanket. Her tail flicked weakly. Her purr grew stronger, still fragile, but real. A sound of hope. The vet continued. "She needs rest, medicine, and gentle care. But she will recover." The stranger nodded. "I'll take her home." Chapter 8. A new beginning. The ride home was different from the ride there. The sky had cleared completely, revealing a wide expanse of blue. Lumi lay in the stranger's lap again, but this time her breathing was peaceful. Her eyes looked brighter, though still tired. When they reached the house, the stranger carried her inside and placed her gently on her soft bed. Lumi sniffed the blanket, then curled into it, her injured leg tucked carefully beneath her. The stranger sat beside her. "You're home now," they whispered. Lumi blinked slowly, then let out the softest, sweetest meow. "A thank you. A promise. A beginning." And as the day warmed the house, and Lumi finally drifted into a deep, safe sleep, the stranger realized something. Lumi wasn't the only one who had been rescued. They both had. Lumi healed slowly, first learning to put weight on her little leg, then taking hesitant steps around the living room, and exploring corners of the house with careful curiosity. Each time she grew tired, she returned to the stranger, climbing into their lap with the clumsy devotion of a creature discovering love for the first time. Her fur grew softer, her eyes brighter, her purr stronger, no longer fragile or uncertain, but warm and full. The stranger learned her rhythms, the soft tap of her paws on the floor, the tiny trills she made when excited, the way she pressed her forehead lightly against their cheek to say, "I trust you." One evening, as the sun lowered behind the hills, painting the walls in golden light, Lumi jumped onto the couch with surprising confidence. She looked at the stranger, her tail curling delicately, her whiskers twitching. It was the look of someone who finally belonged. She stepped forward and placed one tiny paw on the stranger's chest. Her eyes, once full of loneliness, rain, and fear, now shone with something gentle and bright. Home. The stranger smiled, unable to hold back a tear. "You've come so far, Lumi." The little cat let out a soft, sweet meow, a sound that carried the weight of everything she had endured and everything she had become. There, in the warm glow of the fading day, the stranger lifted Lumi and held her close. She nestled into their shoulder, purring deeply, peacefully, fully, not the purr of survival, the purr of love. Outside, the first stars appeared in the sky, the same sky that had once watched Lumi tremble in the rain, hide in abandoned shadows, and cry for a world that seemed too big and too cold. But now, she wasn't in the rain. She wasn't alone. She wasn't afraid. She was safe, cherished, loved beyond anything she had known. For in saving her, the stranger had found something too, a reason to slow down, a heart to protect, a tiny life that filled the empty spaces they didn't know existed. And so the story of Lumi, the little cat who learned hope, ended not with darkness or fear or loss, but with a heartbeat, a warm embrace, and the soft, steady purr of a life reborn. Because some rescues are mutual, some miracles are quiet, and sometimes the smallest creatures carry the biggest love. Lumi had found her forever, and her forever had found her too.